Yeah. Oh yeah, they hate mind flayers more than anybody else. Nobody particularly likes mind flayers. Well, some of us do. But it seems like them a little bit too much.
No judging.
My name is Sven Wenke. I'm the game director on Baldur's Gate 3.
I'm Adam Smith, lead writer, Baldur's Gate 3, Larian Studios.
I'm Nick Pechanian. I'm lead systems designer at Larian.
I'm on the story side for elves. We had a lot of discussions about how they fit into the world. They're one of the more common races. Their reactivity is often about how long-lived they are. They're a very long-lived race, so we don't assume how old your character is, but they often reflect on things with a lot more far-sightedness.
Elves are actually the most picked race in the early access of Baldur's Gate 3, followed closely by half-elves and by tieflings. For release, we're updating the human a little bit. We're giving them a few features so that they feel as interesting as other races to play.
And for the human, in terms of narrative, the actual opposite to the elf. So humans in Faerun are relatively short-lived. They live as long as we do, which isn't very long, sadly. So they experience change and turmoil much more often. We're 100 years after BG2, the humans don't remember it. It's the previous generation for them. For a lot of the other races, it's within their personal memory.
It's hard to say something about them because they're just very, very popular. They're a bit of elf and a bit of human. So I feel like players find it really easy to connect to a half-elf. It's a bit of fantasy, but it's also relatable enough that you see yourself being a bit of a half-elf.
Probably even more popular than the elf.
And one of our origins is a half-elf Shadowheart. The bit I always remember is, I think it's Lizelle at some point refers to her as an elf, and Shadowheart is like, half-elf. And so very upset about it.
Tiefling is my favorite race in BG3, actually. I love their pointy horns. And overall, I don't know, I just like tieflings.
Very important class because there's a lot of tiefling-specific characters in the game.
They're very central to our story. You meet a lot of them in Act 1. And partly that's because we are sequentially after the events descent to Avernus. So a lot of tieflings are fleeing. They're some of the first refugees because of events that have already happened in the world. So you meet a lot of them. They're outsiders, outcasts often. We have an origin character, tiefling as well, Karlak. They're great, yeah.
My favorite, most likely, because they're the aliens on this world.
The alien monk race of Githyanki. In D&D, there's actually two races, but we're representing Githyanki ones. Lizelle, the origin character, is a Githyanki. They're martial-like, and some of them have access to astral plane. This is where they hunt mind flayers. Mind flayers are kind of the mortal enemies, I think, of Githyanki, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they hate mind flayers more than anybody else. Nobody particularly likes mind flayers. Well, some of us do. But it seems like them a little bit too much.
No judging. The cool thing about Halfling is that if you're a Halfling barbarian and you have other friends who are Halfling barbarians, you can throw each other like this ball of rage because you have enough strength. And so you can play this cannonball build that I really recommend.
I always think of Lord of the Rings.
One of my favorite characters in the game is a halfling. I'm not going to say who it is. It's an NPC. And we have this image of halflings that comes from D&D. It also comes from hobbits. It's hard to avoid them. That they are the cozy people. They stay at home by hearth and fire and want a peaceful life. This one does not. My favorites. I love Drow. Yeah, I mean they're my favorites, and again, it's the outsiderness of Drow I find really interesting. We don't have only evil Drow. We represent different kinds of Drow. But my favorite are the Lost One. I like playing evil characters. One of my favorite things in the game, which people will have seen in early access, we've improved it a little, is the reactivity to Drow. You walk around and sometimes people avoid eye contact with you. They're afraid of you, and it's really cool.
I love the reactivity we have to Drow in the game.
In fact, there is so much reactivity to Drows in the game that we decided to split them off into being represented as a separate race in character creation. A lot of people pointed out that Drows should be technically a kind of elf. They are elves, but for us there was just so much gameplay behind being a Drow that we really wanted to highlight it.
And don't tell the Drow that.
got beards.
Beards on everybody.
Bushy beards.
Yeah. I mean, the dwarves are my favorite. So I love randomizing characters because the character creator just throws up really cool things. Pretty much every time it throws up a dwarf at me, I'm just like, wow, what the heck are you? Because they're so broad and they're kind of square, like, you know. Dwarf barbarians just rock.
Yeah, they're also very tough in gameplay. They're a really good pick if you want to go for like a really tanky build.
Heavier than they should be, because when you try to throw them around and you're not that strong, it doesn't work. Very throwable.
Gnomes are the inventors of D&D world, and one of the good things is that if you pick a certain gnomish subrace, you actually start with a little music box that it's implied that your character created, kind of tinkered into. And if you click on that music box, you will hear the theme of Baldur's Gate 3.
And there are another one that's very central to our plot. We have a couple of gnome factions, and yeah, I mean, it goes into the inventor nature of them. It also goes into the history of the Sword Coast, so they're very central to our story.
Finally, it's a big community favorite, the half-orcs. The half-orcs really incentivize us to include these strong body types for all of the races. I think if we wouldn't have half-orcs, we might not have shipped it, but now, thanks to half-orcs, everybody can be buff as you want.
Much cooler than I expected them to be. I think the art team did a really good job on them.
You had half-orcs as NPCs a long time before we had them as playable characters in the builds that we're developing on. And you know, you run into them and you see them and you go, when can I be a half-orc? And now we can.
Dragonborn have a lineage that goes up to dragons, at least they say so. And you can pick what color of a dragon your ancestors were. This changes what element you can resist in the game and what kind of dragon breath you have, as well as some higher level stuff as well.
There's quite a bit of reactivity to Dragonborn. Faerun's a strange place, full of strange people, so nobody's aghast to see one, but people do find you unusual. You know, they're not the most common race. The thing about them is you just have to look at them. I think they're the most gorgeous race I've ever seen in a video game. Like, they're incredible.
Yeah, definitely what I'm going to play. I mean, like, they're the most badass characters that we have. They're just really, really cool. And a sorcerer, Dragonborn with dragon blood, has like this special sheen of his ancestors inside of him. It's fantastic.
Few mortals ever glimpse what you're about to see. But don't be alarmed. I'm here with you. Now, open your eyes.
Master, you are the chosen one.